welcome to my presentation here on Plug and Play CO2 heat pumps. It's a pleasure for me to be here on the stage opening the Specialist Forum today. My name is Kasper Christiansen. I'm the Business Development Manager at Advancer. I've been working with CO2 refrigeration and heat pumps for almost 20 years. And today I want to take you through first the short agenda. So the trends and the challenges we see within heating. Then CO2 plug and play heat pump with the chiller function. And then if we have time, there's some questions at the end.
Okay.
So first the trends and the challenges. There is clearly a knowledge gap in heating without fossil fuels. So typically when we talk to consultants or end users, they when they think of heating, it's some kind of fossil fuel boiler. So it's an oil boiler or a gas boiler, sometimes also biomass boiler. But all of it is something where we burn things, and we need to stop burning things to stay warm. Then there's the lack of skilled people on site. It's not that there are not skilled people on site, but there's simply not enough people. So if we need to fulfill the targets that are set in the EU, so the whole green transition will require so many people, and the people are not there yet. So that is of course also a challenge. Then the sustainability agenda is also changing. So we see the F-gas regulations changed start of this year. So in the previous version, the purpose was to reduce the use of F-gases, but now it's to phase out the F-gases. And on top of that, it's also including heat pumps now. In the old F-gas versions, heat pumps was exempted, but no longer. So now they are included in the F-gas regulation.
Yeah.
Then also the ESG reporting. Some of you might already know it. Some of you will get to know it, because this is also something that will require a lot of resources, and it takes it looks into refrigeration or refrigerants, so also the potential leak of refrigerants. Then the design conditions changing. So we see that buildings and energy grids become more one common system. And then when we look at the temperature profiles and the building mass, then of course on new buildings, new areas, we have underfloor heating. We can have a low supply temperature. But if we're looking at the existing building mass, so all the old buildings require quite high supply temperature. And then of course, when we talk about heat pumps, there's also a focus on energy efficiency, also energy efficient operation. I will come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the design conditions changing. When we see a heat pump, we need to have we need to collect the energy from somewhere to drive the heat pump. So actually I see this similar to what we have been doing in the refrigeration business for many years. So when we have a refrigeration system, we have heat recovery, we recover the excess heat. So now when we have a heat pump, we need to look into the possibility to recover the excess cooling. So for example, it could be a factory where we can use the excess cooling ourselves, or we could provide it or sell it to the grid, provide it to the neighbor building or whatever. And then so linking up the energy between the buildings, and then also the power grid. When we have more and more on electricity, so heat pumps, electrical cars and so on, then we need to understand that that we need to balance the grid. So we cannot all just use unlimited electricity whenever we want. So we need to look at the possibilities of balancing the electrical grid. This could, for example, be with buffer tanks, and then operate the heat pumps when electricity prices are low, stop it when electricity prices are high. So all in all, it's the synergy in heat pumps that we need to look into. So the CO2 plug-and-play heat pump, we can easily replace fossil fuel boilers. We can easily replace the air conditioning units. So when we look at the plug-and-play heat pump, we have a temperature profile of 40 degrees inlet and 80 degrees outlet, which is quite nice if you look at the condensing gas boiler. So it's quite easy to replace. We can keep the same installation in the building. So if we can deliver the same temperature as a gas boiler, then we can keep the same pipe systems, the same radiators, the same ventilation systems, coils and ventilation systems, pumps and so on. And then with our heat pump, we have a open Modbus protocol, meaning that it's easy to integrate into the overall BMS or SCADA system of the building. On top of that, we also have the possibility to provide cold water for air conditioning or other cooling purposes. When we talk about heat pumps, then of course COP is important. And when we talk about CO2, it's important to understand that things are a bit different from condensing refrigerants. On condensing refrigerants, it's the supply temperature that defines the condensing pressure and thereby the COP of the heat pump. With CO2, that's not how it is. So with CO2, it's the return water, so the water coming into the heat pump, that actually defines the optimal pressure or the pressure we need to operate with the heat pump at. So that is clearly an advantage in many situations. For example, if we look at the black line on the graph here, the black line indicates 40 degrees water inlet. And then you see on the x-axis we have the water outlet temperature. So if we are to supply 55 degrees supply temperature or 70 degrees supply temperature, the COP doesn't change. So we can actually achieve high supply temperature without compromising the COP. Even up to 80 degrees, you can see there's a slight decrease in the COP, but still we can provide really high supply temperature with only small sacrifice on the COP. The two other lines here, the blue one at the top is similar. It indicates 35 degrees water inlet, and the gray one at the bottom is 45. But the picture is more or less the same. COP, of course, is important, but I think it's even more important to look at how we operate the heat pump. So smart operation is really important to get the overall best economy in the system. So one of the benefits with the CO2 heat pumps is that we can start and stop really fast. We can adjust the capacity to the heating demand. And if we look at the table I have here on the right side, it shows the hot water consumption from a hotel. And now all of us most likely stay at a hotel this week, and we know that you see from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock, it's really hot water consumption in a hotel. That's where everybody takes the shower in the morning. And if we look at from midnight till 7 o'clock in the morning, the hot water consumption is really low. If we then look at the price of electricity, that is quite often where the electricity is also cheaper. So, for example, if we instead of operating the heat pump according to the specific heat demand, but more use the capacity of buffer tanks, we could operate the heat pump full speed during the night time, buffer up a lot of energy, and then stop the heat pump 7 o'clock in the morning when electricity prices are high and we have high consumption of hot water. So then, of course, if it's an air-to-water heat pump, we will have a slightly lower COP operating at lower ambient temperatures during night. But if the electricity prices are 1/3 of what it is during the daytime, then it makes sense to do so. So smart operation is really something that we need to look into to get the overall best efficiency of the system. Moving to the product itself, so the plug-and-play CO2 heat pump. It's a plug-and-play, so everything is connected. Everything is finished. It's produced from factory. We can provide heating and cooling at the same time. We have high energy efficiency. We can provide up to 85, 90 degrees supply temperature. And we have high capacity even in low ambient. So this heat pump can operate at minus 20 degrees ambient temperature. Then it's climate and environmentally friendly, as we use CO2 as a refrigerant. So no F-gases, no PFAS, none of that. It's natural refrigerant. So, and then we are reliable in operation. If we look at the heat pump itself, then you see on the left side here, we have the machine part over here. So that's where we have the machine part. And then on the right side, we have the evaporators or the energy collectors. So that's where we collect the energy from the ambient air to drive the heat pump. Everything is built together, one frame, fits on a standard truck. We have a mesh around the fins of the evaporator to protect it. But also this means that we can actually place the unit in a parking lot without setting up a fence around it, because it is protected and people are protected from getting hurt touching the fence. Then we have, as I said, everything is factory tested, factory programmed. The defrost control is integrated. So it's actually just to connect water and electricity, and then we can run the heat pump. We even perform evacuation of the system, pre-charged with oil, pre-charged with small amount of CO2. So when it comes on site, it's just to add more CO2, and then you're ready to start up. Then we also have water pumps, both on the hot side and the cold side, so we can ensure the right supply temperature. Then we have a touch panel at the front of the electrical panel, so it's easy for service and monitoring. Even a cloud-based solution is possible. So it's really easy to use, easy to service the unit. Energy efficient. As I said, the overall unit is designed for high energy efficiency. So we have we use, for example, on the defrost, we use hot gas to defrost it, but it's not similar to other heat pumps or reversible heat pumps where we have a four-way valve changing the direction of the refrigerant. So here our evaporators are split in multiple circuits or coils, so we can take out part of the evaporators, defrost it, while we keep operating on the rest of them, so we can still provide heating for the building at the same time as we actually defrost the coils or the evaporators. Then we focus on the design of the evaporators and the system, so we can operate with really low superheat. Then the compressors that we use, they have permanent magnet motors, as has the pumps as well. So then also before I mentioned that this with the fast adaptive capacity control. So whenever a customer has changes in the heating demand really fast, we will speed up the heat pump or slow down to fit the request from the customer. As I said before, that we can operate down to minus 20 degrees ambient temperature, and even with the high heating output. So this plug-and-play heat pump is in plus 7 degrees. It's almost 700 kilowatts of heating. And if we then look at all the way down to minus 20, we can still deliver more than 450 kilowatts of heating. We can still provide 85 degrees supply temperature, even in minus 20 degrees ambient temperature. I know there's not many places where we have minus 20, but it really shows the capability of this product. Real short on the, I mentioned the F-gas directive, and when we are looking at a phase out of the F-gases, then natural refrigerants is the only way forward. So just focusing on CO2, it's non-toxic, non-flammable, high supply temperature, low maintenance, and then as you see at the bottom here that it's a future-proof, so there's no ban in the F-gas directive. Reliable in operation, so the unit is fully factory built, so it's built in controlled environment, so we can ensure that we don't have dirt and dust coming into the pipes if you compare with a on-site built heat pump. So that is a risk that we can ensure that is not a risk. And then we have redundant components in parallel to ensure high uptime. We know that end users, customers in a product like this, they are looking at the heating. They want to have the heat when they need the heat. So therefore, we decided to have a lot of the components in parallel. So we have multiple compressors, multiple ejectors, multiple frequency inverters, and as I said, we have the coils are split in multiple circuits with each injection valve. So if one valve should break, then we can still provide not full capacity, but we can still provide a lot of heating until it's fixed and we are back up running. Then the water pump, we control the water pump. Actually, we just need to know from the customer how much capacity do you need and what temperature, and then we control everything. So we control the pump to fit the temperature that is requested by the customer. Short look on the product portfolio. I'll not go too deep into that. Then I just have a case here. Just want to show you. So this is our own factory here. That is our own factory in Denmark. So here we wanted, of course, to take our own medicine and test our unit. So we decided to install a heat pump, providing the comfort heating and the hot tap water for the building. Here's how it looks. So we have this is the biggest unit we have. We call it ValueBox 600. So this year we produce 600 kilowatts of heating. It's air to water, and it's been integrated into our building management system. Installation time, here we used 8 hours. So from we placed the unit till we actually pushed the button to start the unit was only 8 hours. So it's really fast to...
We have just 30 seconds left.
And I'm finished. Thank you. now there's not much time for questions, but you're welcome to visit us in Hall 9, 528. So drop by if you have any questions or you want to see. We have the product with us today, so you can come and see it.